everyone, my name is Rachel. Welcome back to my channel. So today I am bringing you guys my pretty ambitious November TBR. I've just kind of realized now that we're getting to the end of 2020 that there are so many books that I want to read before the end of the year. So that's why this TBR is kind of crazy. Also, I just can't even believe that I'm already doing my November TBR. You know, this year has been such a fever dream that on the one hand, I feel like this has been the longest year of our lives. And on the other hand, I feel like it's gone by really fast. Yeah, I don't even know what's going on anymore. But without further ado, let's just get into the stack of books that I have next to me, because I am really excited about all of these. So the first one is a classic. I really want to try my best to just read more classics in general, but I'm also trying to pick out classics that I know that I'm going to like. So the one that I want to read in November is Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte. This is the beautiful cloth-bound edition by Worth Press. I got this edition from Book Depository, which is an amazing UK-based website because they have completely free international shipping. So yes, if you're interested in this edition, definitely check out Book Depository. I loved this edition because lavender is one of my favorite colors. I also love the orange sprayed edges. What I also love about this edition is that there's some really cool bonus content. For instance, there is a page about all of the principal characters and it gives you a complete rundown about who they are. And then there's also some pages that give you like historical context of what was going on at the time that Charlotte Bronte wrote this novel. I am really looking forward to reading this month because I have been getting into Gothic literature in general, and I've heard that this is like the classic Gothic kind of romance story. So I'm really excited about reading this in November. Next, we have Tools of Engagement by Tessa Bailey. This is book 3 in the Hot and Hammered series. This came out, I think, in late September, and I'm really excited about this third and I think final book because I have really been enjoying the first 2 books of this series. And Tessa Bailey just writes some great romances and great smut, so yes, I'm very excited about this one. So next up is Succubus on Top by Rochelle Mead. This is book 2 in the Georgina Kincaid series, which this is an adult paranormal romance series, which is so exciting to see from Rochelle Mead because all of the books that I have read from her are YA, but I am currently reading the first book, which is Succubus Blues, and I am absolutely obsessed. I'm pretty sure it's going to be a 5-star read, but this essentially follows Georgina Kincaid, of course, who is a succubus. And if you don't know what a succubus is, they are essentially female demons that feed off of the life force of mortal men. And so she has lived a very long life. I'm getting the sense that she has lived for like thousands of years at this point. But what's interesting is that she was a mortal at some point and was made into a succubus. So I'm really interested to find out the backstory of that. So in November, I really wanted to get more into historical fiction. That is a genre that I hardly ever read now that I'm thinking about it. And if I do, there's usually a fantastical or paranormal element to it. It's not just strictly historical fiction. So I'm thinking what I might do in November is read a few historical fiction novels and document my experience in a reading vlog. I think that's going to be a lot of fun because I haven't done a reading vlog in a while. So the first one I want to get to is Dreamland Burning by Jennifer Latham. I think that's how her name is pronounced. And I am going to read the back cover for you guys because I don't really remember much about the synopsis except that it does have to do with the 1921 Tulsa massacre. So it says, when 17-year-old Rowan Chase finds a skeleton on her family's property, she has no idea that investigating the brutal century-old murder will lead to a summer of painful discoveries about the past, the present, and herself. 100 years earlier, a single violent encounter propels 17-year-old Will Tillman into a racial firestorm, sparking a journey towards self-discovery where Will must confront his own inner demons as he struggles to do what's right the night Tulsa burns. So I think that it's a dual perspective between Rowan in the present and Will in the past. I've heard some really great things about this book, and I'm really interested in trying to find more historical fiction novels that center around Black characters and just people of color in general, because historical fiction, I feel like, is definitely a genre that is very white-centered, and most books are about World War II. So I'm trying to find more variation in the genre, and I think that this is going to be a really great pick for that. So the next one is a very popular historical fiction novel. This this is The Nightingale by Kristen Hanna. This is a book that so many people just rave and rave and rave about. I haven't seen anyone that I follow give this less than 5 stars. I have a feeling that it's going to be a really great read. This one does center around World War II, but it specifically centers around the Women's War. It says, The Nightingale tells the story of 2 sisters separated by years and experience by ideals, passion, and circumstance, each embarking on her own dangerous path toward survival, love, and freedom in German-occupied, war-torn France. So this sounds like it's going to be hard-hitting, really emotional. It's probably going to make me cry. I've heard that this book makes everyone just sob, so I'm really looking forward to reading this in November. Next up, we have The Lovely War by Julie Berry. So this book I think came out this year, and from what I understand, I want to go into this pretty blind, but from what I understand, it centers around World War I, and I think there's a couple of love stories that are told from the perspective of Aphrodite, who is the goddess of love. And I think that there are other gods and goddesses involved in the story as well, but I've heard, again, nothing but phenomenal things about this book. Also, the cover, I'm just so here for the aesthetic of the cover, so I'm really looking forward to this one as well. And then the last historical fiction that I have on my TBR is pretty much a classic at this point. I can't believe it's taken me this long to actually read it, but it is The Book Thief by Markus Zusak. I think this came out in like 2005 or something like that. I think this is like a 10th anniversary edition or something like that. And this one, of course, takes place during World War II. I think it centers on the Holocaust, and it is told from the perspective of death. So all of that sounds really interesting. I've heard nothing but phenomenal things, especially about the audiobooks, so I'm definitely going to go that route. And then last but not least, I definitely wanted to get back into some fantasy in November. So the first 2 books are books that I actually mentioned in my October TBR, but they were books that I kind of knew I wasn't going to be able to get to because I just had so many paranormal books on my October TBR. But the first one is The Hazelwood by Melissa Albert. This is a gorgeous cover. This is a YA fantasy. This is about Alice, and her grandmother is a very famous author of these really dark and twisted fairy tales that take place in this fantastical world called the Hazelwood. And unfortunately, Alice's mother ends up getting taken away to this fantastical world that ends up being an actual real place. So that sounds really interesting. I'm definitely going to go the audiobook route for this one as well, because Rebecca Soler, who is one of my all-time favorite audiobook narrators, narrates this one. And then the other fantasy that I want to get to is A Reaper at the Gates by Saba Tahir. Again, this was on my October TBR. But this is book 3 in the Ember and the Ashes series, which is a YA fantasy series. The 4th and final book, which is called A Sky Beyond the Storm, is coming out in December, so I definitely wanted to read this so that I could be caught up for when that final book comes out. And then I have 2 more fantasy series on this TBR. The first one is Bring Me Their Hearts by Sarah Wolf. I'm gonna read the inside cover because it's been a long time since I bought this book. It says, Zara is a heartless, the immortal, unaging soldier of a witch. Bound to the witch Nightsinger, Zara longs for freedom from the woods they hide in. With her heart in a jar under Nightsinger's control, she serves the witch unquestioningly, until Nightsinger asks Zara for the prince's heart in exchange for her own, with one addendum. If she's discovered infiltrating the court, Nightsinger will destroy Zara's heart rather than see her tortured by the witch-hating nobles. That sounds amazing. I've heard really great things about this trilogy. The final book, which I think is called Send Me Their Souls, is coming out really soon if it hasn't come out already, and I actually got an e-arc for that, so I'm really excited about reading this trilogy. And then last but not least, we have Forest of a Thousand Lanterns by Julie C. Dow. This is definitely a mood read for me because it is essentially a villain origin story. It is East Asian fantasy inspired. I don't know much else except that it is a villain origin story, and I've heard just fantastic things about it, so I thought that November would be the perfect month to read it. Alright guys, that's going to be it for this November TBR. I hope you guys enjoyed. I would love it if you would leave a comment below telling me what books you want to read in November, and of course please leave a like and subscribe if you haven't yet, and I thank you if you do. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye!